Hi guys, good afternoon. Uh, I'm Sophia Ribu and I am one of the mentors for Writing Streak 3.0. Alright, so today we would be talking on three different aspects. We'll be talking on Alright, so we'll be talking on how to use paragraphs, short and clear sentences in technical writing, and how to write in an active voice instead of a passive voice. So let's start with how to use paragraphs. Give me a minute. So in technical writing, it's best that you and cohesive paragraphs. And at the beginning of your article, it's always best that you start with a great opening sentence. All right, sorry about that. So yes, as I was saying, it's great that you start with an opening, like a great opening sentence. Most times, before people actually before anyone read an article, they would read the first opening sentence or the first um, paragraph. That is usually the introduction, and if it does not captivate them, they will not proceed to read your article. And it's always best, that you actually keep that paragraph simple and straight to the point. So some tips on how to actually write a good paragraph. First of all, ensure that your paragraph that's yes, ensure that your paragraph is focused on a particular topic. Don't try to write two to three topics or yes, two to three topics in one paragraph. It makes it bulky and it makes it hard to read and digest. Another tip is don't make your paragraph too long or too short. Ensure that it's the adequate um, number of words. And when you're writing a paragraph, especially your introduction, ensure that you answer this: what the article is about, why the reader should read it, and how the reader can use the information gotten from the article to proceed, like how they can use that in their day-to-day life. So this is an example. I really don't know if you guys can see my screen. So this of a good paragraph that can be used for an opening sentence or an opening introduction in your article. What it does is it answers the what is the reader and what is the article trying to tell the reader, why the reader should read it, and how the reader can use this information or this knowledge. So next up, let's talk about writing clear clear sentences. Right. So here it says comedy writers seek the funniest results, horror writers strive for the scariest, and technical writers aim for the clearest. So in your technical writing journey, it's always best that your article is clear to the reader. Not just your article as a whole, but let every sentence be clear to the reader. Because if it's not clear, then the information is not passed, and the reader just like wasted their time to read that stuff. So now, when writing clear sentences in your article, you need to first of all you need to choose strong verbs. So yeah, it says that many technical writers believe that the verb is the most important part of a sentence. So pick the right verb, and the rest of the sentence will take care of itself. So a verb is an action word. So what this is trying to say is that if you pick the right verb if you pick the right verb to explain this sentence, it will be easy and it will be very clear for the reader. So it also says here, so to engage and educate readers, choose precise, strong, specific verbs. Reduce weak verbs or generic verbs such as the following, as forms of be, was, occur, happen. So many writers, they tend to rely on forms of be, or they use words like of course, happen, are very often in their in in their articles, and it may come off as weak. Okay, I don't think you guys can see my screen. All right. So I'm sorry if you're not seeing my screen before. So I was talking about choosing or selecting strong verbs. So in a case where you have to use of course, try using raises, or let's say you want to use happens, try using generate. Because these verbs, they help article, or they help your sentence to be more clear, and the reader too would also understand it. Okay, yes, yeah, it also says reduce the use of there is, there are, sentences that start with there is or there are marry a generic noun or generic verb. So try avoiding using this, there is, and there are. And another thing is minimize using some adjective. Sorry, it seems like I can't be heard. Please, can you just comment if you can hear me? Okay. So I can be heard. All right. So minimize using certain adjective and adverbs. And then another thing that I tell beginners in technical writing is avoid using words big words like flamboyant, or like words that make you sound as if you are a scholar. No, because you are writing for someone that is a beginner, and they might not know the meaning of that word. So it's always best for you to use small words to pass or convey your message. So next up, let's talk about how to efficiently use short sentences. So okay, in technical writing, it's always best for you to use short sentence to pass your message across. So and using that, like it's really important, because when an idea is oh my god, when an idea is broken down into shorter sentence, it helps the reader to understand what what information you are trying to pass through. Okay, yeah, it says shorter documentation reads faster than a longer documentation, and that's true, because most times people don't have all the time in the world to spend on a particular article. So they would rather read something um, that they can get their answer very fast, than to read one long stuff and might still be confused at the end of the day. Yeah, it also says shorter documentation is typically easier to maintain than a longer longer one, which is also true. And extra lines of documentation includes additional points of failure. So try to break down your sentence into shorter, um, you know, into sorry, try to break down your idea or the information they are trying to pass through into shorter sentences. And another thing is focus each sentence on a particular idea. Let's say you are trying to talk about how to use break line in HTML, and you start with um this this syntax is used to break line in HTML, and it was first used in this time, and you can use p tag after using the break line. Now what you are doing is you are now diverting that you are now diverting the focus and the attention of your reader. Instead, each sentence should solely focus on a particular idea or a particular information that you're trying to pass through. Like this sentence here, the late okay, the late 1950s was a key era for programming for it was a key era for programming languages because IBM introduced this and this. Now, this is good, but it's long. So you can break it into a short sentence like this. So what this does is the first sentence talked about the era of the I'm sorry, the year of the era of programming languages. The next one talked about this specific year that Fortran was brought, and the next one talked about the person that wrote that, and the last one now talked about how it was used during that era. This way, your reader actually understands what you are trying to say because the idea has been broken down into bits. And another tip is convert some long sentences into lists. So if you're writing an article and you have a super long sentence, it will be best for you to break it down into list, and this is what lists are called. Like this these dots here is first is one list, and the next dot here is another list. So if you can break down your long sentences into this list, it will also help your readers. And then yes, like I said earlier, try to avoid or reduce using big words because you are trying to pass an information out. You are not trying to convince your sorry, you are not trying to confuse your your readers. So instead of using big words, try using small words that would pass the same information. Okay, and here it says reduce subordinate clauses. So a clause is an independent logical fragment of a sentence that contains an actor and an action. So in other words, a clause is an incomplete sentence that has the person performing the action and the action that is being performed. For example, Python is an interpreted programming language. So this can be a clause. The actor here would be Python, and the action would be, I think, interpreted. So then a subordinate clause here might be which was invented in 1999. So in some cases, adding this extra piece of information might not be that useful because it will just make your sentences not clear. Okay, and another thing is try to distinguish that from which. So when I started writing as well, it was a bit difficult for me to actually tell the difference between that and which. So when you know the difference between that and which, it will really help you. So when you actually know the difference between that and which, so yeah, they said that and which they both introduce subordinate clauses like we saw here, which is sorry, yes, like we saw here. Python is an interpreted programming language which was invented in 1999. So from here is the subordinate clause, and which was used to introduce that. So when writing, try to avoid um, using which to introduce a clause, and also ensure that you can tell the difference between that and which. So lastly, let's talk about identifying active and passive voice. Sorry for that. Okay, so lastly, let's talk about identifying active and passive voice. So in technical writing, it's essential that you know what an active voice is and what a passive voice is. And to some people, because I know that this affected me at first, to some people you might not be able to tell the difference. So here it says that in an active voice sentence, an actor, that's the person that is performing the action, acts on a target. Then in a passive voice sentence, it reverses the formula. So here it says actor plus verb plus target. Um, it helps you define an active voice, and in a passive voice is target plus verb plus actor. So a uh, a key sentence that can help help us identify this is now an active voice sen- sentence would be this: the cat sat on the mat. So the cat is the actor, sat is the verb, mat is the target. But in a passive voice, remember we said target, verb, and actor. So a passive voice would be the mat was sat on by the cat. So the target, the verb, and the actor. I don't know if that was helpful to you. That's like the example. So another passive sentence would be the mat was sat on. So what this did was that it identified the target, it identified the verb, but there was no actor. So when um when you are writing your article, it is always best that you follow this format. This one, the actor first, the verb, and target. This way, your reader will actually know what you are trying to say. Now, if someone says the cat sat on the mat, your first thought would be okay. So the cat was on top of the mat. But if you hear this one, the mat was sat on by the cat. First of all, it will be a bit confusing. Yes, it will be a bit confusing because you will need to read this at least 3 times to actually know what the sentence is trying to say. Right? Um, let's talk about how to recognize passive verbs. So this is a formula to recognize passive verbs. Here it said form of be plus past participle verb. So a form of be in a passive verb would be either are or was or were or is. Then a past participle verb is typically a plain verb plus a suffix. It will be things like formed, generated, interpreted. Um, Let me try to think of another one that ends with ed. Uh, recommended. So things like that. Those are past participle verbs. Okay, yeah, it says unfortunately some past participle verbs they are irregular. So okay, yes. So not all past participle verbs actually has or rather have that ed suffix at the end. So some are. sat, like in the example that we saw e- earlier. Some are known, some are frozen. So putting the form of be and the past participle together would be something like was was interpreted or was ge- generated. So that is just a poor passive um, verb. That's like a poor one, and you should try as much as possible to avoid that. So it says here, if the phrase contains an actor, a preposition ordinarily follows the passive verb, and the preposition is often a key clue to help you spot a passive verb. Um, like here it said, was interpreted as. So, as is the preposition, and it helps you spot that was interpreted is a passive verb. So another thing here that it says is imperative verbs are typically active. They are typically active. So what is an imperative verb? So an imperative verb is a command. So many items in number list starts with imperative verbs. For example, open and set in the following list are both imperative verbs. Okay, open the configuration. The configuration file is an imperative verb. Set the frobos um, variable to false is also an imperative verb. And yeah, it states that. Sorry, please, it's raining here. So if you can hear me, just drop a comment. Okay, it's okay. It seems like you all can still hear me. So here is another useful tip. Sentences that start with an imperative verb typically are typically in an active voice, even though they don't explicitly mention an actor. Instead, sentences that start with an imperative verb implies an actor, and actor is usually you. Like this one, open the configuration file. The actor will be you, so you are the one that is performing the action, and the action will be for you to open the file. So usually, if you see an imperative verb in a sentence, it is usually in an active voice instead of a passive one. So in a much more, or rather, in a more complex
sentence, uh, many sentences contain multiple verbs, some of which are active, some of which are passive. For example, here, code is interpreted by Python, but code is complied by C++. So this is definitely a passive voice because the target is first, the verb follows after, and the actor is is at the last. It, an active voice would definitely be Python. It interprets code or interprets the code. So, so the actor is first, the verb is next, and the target is um, follows after. But here now it says Python interprets code, but code is compiled by C plus plus. If you want to make this a fully active verb, you will say Python interprets code, but C plus plus compiles code. That way, you are putting the actor first, the verb next, and the target at the end. Oh, exactly. The just the same thing I said. Python interprets code, but C plus plus compiles code. So this is a brief exercise that you can do during your free. So now in technical writing, it's always best for you to use the active voice more often than using the, the passive voice. But in some cases, you can still use a passive voice, but that should be like sparingly, or you can use them once in a while. Now, these are the advantages of using an active voice in your articles. First of all, most readers they mentally convert the passive voice to an active voice. So why subject your reader to extra processing of the information like we saw here? The mat was sat on by the cat. It's quite confusing and it's going to take your reader a longer time to actually understand what you mean. And another point here is passive voice help passive voice obstructs your idea, like turning the sentences like it just okay. Most times passive voice they not only confuse your reader, but they also um they also confuse the idea or the information that they're trying to pass through. So another tip is some passive voice omits the actor. And if you are writing a user guide and you omit the actor, the reader might will definitely be confused on you know what that um, information is trying to pass through. And and last but not the least, an active voice is generally shorter than passive voice. Like it is always shorter because it goes straight to the point because it has the actor at the first, followed by the verb and the target. While a passive voice is stretched and quite confusing. So I guess that's all. If you have any question, you can just ask.
Hi, Sophia. Thank you so much for your session. Um, I believe everyone has learned something, and we're so happy that despite your health, you're still able to make it. So, if you have questions, you can ask now, and Sophia will be willing to answer you. Okay, I'm going through the chat. I'm trying to see if. Okay, someone is asking if we get materials. Yes, the materials would be shared in a document that I sent to your email. So keep an eye out for that document. And all the materials for all the sessions would be uploaded there. So just keep checking after every class. Okay, I can't see any more questions. Right. Okay. So if there are no more questions, thank you so much, Sophia, for your time. Thank you so much for everyone that joined. Um, you can always ask a question on the WhatsApp group or send an email. Okay. So with that, we come to the end of today's class. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Bye, bye, guys.